we'd like to introduce one of our guests today, Justin Falconer, CEO of Workforce Windsor Essex. Justin will speak to you today about some of the most recent technology for local labor and market information. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you, Mandy, for the introduction. You've done a great job at kicking off the conference, and I guess I regret having to sort of follow this introduction and try to hold the water here as we kick off this exciting conference. Congratulations to the organizers as the third annual Growing Your Workforce Conference. As a workforce planning board in the Windsor Essex area, we cannot be more proud and support of this initiative. Really thankful to those who have taken time out of their day to join us virtually as we discuss the state of the labor market in Ontario. In preparing for today's presentation or talk, I pulled some numbers really quick. I don't know if you know this, but before the pandemic in Ontario, for people age 15 to 64, there were just over 7 million people employed, and that could be full-time or part-time. And when the pandemic hit, in the lowest point of the pandemic, this number had fallen by 1 million people to 6,033,000 people working in the province. The good news is we have climbed back. We have come back stronger. We're now at 7.2 million people almost. We're just a little shy of that. But the good news is we have gained, 1.16 million jobs since the lows of the pandemic. And overall, like compared to 2 years prior in the same month, we're still up about 120,000 jobs. Now you might think, yeah, but population's gone up. Population has gone up. It's gone up by about 94,000 people. So overall, even in spite of population growth, we're still seeing more people with jobs today than where we were prior to the pandemic. So that's a little bit of good news. But here's the bad news. I think there are people that are changing gears. Some people have chosen to retire. There are skills gaps in our communities. And although perhaps during the pandemic period, there was sort of surplus labor available to be hired and recruited, this is sort of disappearing again as we sort of build back better coming out of this pandemic. And so like in Windsor, for example, last month we had 7,171 job postings in our community, and that was a record number, the highest we'd ever seen it since we started tracking this data 3 years ago. So I think there's sort of really big movement happening in the labor force. People are changing careers, changing jobs, looking at sort of what fits them and their new lifestyle. For those who are really honing in on work from home and the flexibility that offers, these people are looking at everything, not just pay, but employer and alike. So what I want to do is maybe talk a bit about how workforce planning boards are helping communities in this regard, helping to facilitate, if you will, the supply and demand of labor, and doing our part to report on it and talk about it, and also help people along the way as they find work. So I have a lot of friends and colleagues, hopefully in attendance today, hopefully, or else I'm going to get some really bad reviews. But for those who work with me and know me, we've got some really powerful job tools on our website. And I know many of you do in your regions too, running our platform. And so if you're in the chat, if you're online, please know that I would love it if you would share your website address and the communities that you serve, the counties, the regions. We're all across Ontario. So there are, 24, 25, 26 maybe websites that will do this work. But I'm going to, for the purpose of this presentation, show you the Windsor Essex version of this website. that I'm talking about, and how this is going to really help people in our community find work, and it's going to make things easier for employers as well. So again, if you're in the chat, feel free to talk about your communities and your counties and what website people would go to in order to find this work. You know, although we've been operating this website now for 2 or 3 years, we've been building the tools, improving them every month. And there's always something new and exciting, but there's always people that have never heard or seen these tools to begin with. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into this, and I'm going to rely on Dylan to sort of pull me out once I hit my time and we go on to the next. But I know I've got a little bit of time as we go into this. First of all, a job board. I know a job board is not that exciting. For those who are looking for work, it is a lot of work to go from job board to job board to job board. You know, Indeed, Workopolis, Charity Village, ZipRecruiter, you know, the list goes on and on. There are, you know, dozens and dozens of these job boards. And what happens is, as you're looking for work, you start coming across duplicates and you get a little discouraged. You're like, well, I've probably seen everything from this point on. But the fact is, employers post uniquely on job boards everywhere. And just because you've seen a duplicate doesn't mean everything underneath it is a duplicate. And so what happens is people miss job opportunities, and employers, you know, I don't blame them. You can't post in multiple places all the time. You've got lots of application tracking systems you're going to have to manage. You know, screening candidates becomes complex because you're on different platforms. And so what workforce planning boards have done is tried to make that process a little bit simpler. We have created an aggregated job board. So employers can't post with us directly, and we don't want them to, because we want them to be working with their preferred job board or employment service partner. But the good news is we are trying to aggregate all these job postings. You know, I think in Ontario right now, we're north of 250 job boards that sort of are coming into our system and being scattered across the different regional websites that are hopefully being shared in the chat. And this is about deduplicating job postings. It's about classifying and sorting and organizing the data related to job postings. And it's about having a really good sense in real time about where hiring demand is at. And I think by consequence, we're actually helping job seekers a lot. So, you know, in Windsor this hour, we have over 3,000 active job postings. I've never seen this number north of 3,000. Again, we're sort of in unprecedented territory for hiring demand. And perhaps in your regions, you're also experiencing that too. You'll see here, there's really clear links. Go to job post. This one's going to take you to Indeed. This next one's going to take you to Workopolis. Our goal here is to get the job seeker to the site that the employer is posted at. Our goal is not to change where employers are posting. In fact, we want to make it easier for them. And so what we're doing is making these jobs easier to search and navigate. And in the process, we're deduplicating, organizing, classifying, and doing all of our fun, you know, statistics and data work in the background. Because workforce planning boards, you know, we do a lot of great project work and research in our communities, and we need data like this in order to do that. So even though we're helping a lot of job seekers indirectly, we're also helping ourselves with getting access to live labor market information without demand. So really excited about that. You can sort and view these jobs in list view, of course, like on a job board, but there's lots of other tools here up in the top. So I've hit this all tools toolbar, and you'll know you're on sort of one of our platform sites across the province if there's a gray toolbar here. When you hit all tools, you can see sort of the, you know, over a dozen tools and reports that people have access to. And the nice thing is this information is live. It's changing every time, every hour of the day, and it's constantly sort of getting fed and improved. I really appreciate the fact that people are taking time to share their websites in the chat. I know it's really important. You know, not everyone will come to the Windsor Essex website, especially if you live elsewhere. So, but please know that our partners in workforce planning boards and even some of the counties that have run these tools, you know, they may not have all the tools, but they're definitely interested in taking notes. So if you see tools here you like, and you want to know more about it, please talk to some of the folks sharing the website, or talk to your workforce planning board, or about these tools. But let me bounce over to the job map. So what's great about this tool is, unlike the list view, there's a lot like, instead of shopping for a house on MLS, you're shopping for a job in your region. And so what we've done here is we've mapped job postings to communities. So if where you work is just as important as what you would like to do for a living, this tool is going to help you. And so as you zoom in, these jobs will cluster and sort of decluster depending on which way you're going. And of course, you can hit a number and it will sort of start going in. When you get down to these map markers, you can actually see the individual job here, and you can go right to the job post. You can get driving, transit, and walking directions from where you are. And it's all about sort of making the experience of finding a job easier for people. We've also put on the left-hand side a bunch of services that are really important to job seekers to help them overcome sort of traditional barriers to employment. And this could be access to childcare. It could be, getting their driver's license. It could be, knowing sort of where their language training center is proximal to jobs. It could be accessing certain transit routes too. So I can turn on transit routes here. So now I have a good sense that if I'm going to apply for this job, there's a nearby childcare center. I know if I'm taking the bus, I know sort of where the routes go and sort of what the path is for that. And also, you can also put on your Employment Ontario service providers and your adult literacy services as well. So you can get a really good sense of what services are proximal to the job postings you might be looking at, whether or not they're along bus routes or along, roadways that are going to be convenient for you to drive. So really great information here. And of course, up at the top, you can use a keyword and sort of magically hide all other job postings. So you can really hone in on exactly what you're looking for. So I'm going to jump over to another tool, and it's going to be the career library tool. So this is where you would research a job. So if you were going to apply for a job, look for a job, and now we're going to make your life a little bit easier by researching a job. But I'm going to actually come at it through the job board, just so you can see how easy it is to maybe move around between these tools. So on this job board here, it says there's administrative assistant position from this company in Windsor. There is a link here where you can get right to, researching everything you can about that occupation, and it will appear. So this is the cleaner job. It's under knock code light duty cleaners. This is a fitness manager job. It's under recreation, sports, fitness program, and service directors. So if you're going to apply for this job, and I'm just going to click on administrative assistants, you may want to go into that interview knowing and being more prepared about sort of what are the traditional job duties, what are the income or salary that you might be able to sort of command or ask for. For employers, if you're going to start recruiting, you may want to know what you should be recruiting or asking or sort of advertising at. And so here I've got 579 data samples for administrative assistants with salary or wage data extracted from job postings. And so we have a really good sense of what the going rate for administrative assistants are. Generally, it's $35,000 to $45,000 a year, and depending on sort of where you fall, it's sort of good information to have this, especially if you're going to go out and do some recruiting. This will give you sort of real-time information about sort of where what the going rate is, by occupation, and of course you can do this by all 500 knock codes in the system. So, you could jump over to legal administrative assistants or welders or carpenters, and you can see the exact same sort of thing by clicking on salary and income and details. And of course, the sample size will vary based on the number of postings that we've found. But yeah, and then you can go along here in the left-hand side, you can see sort of the skills, knowledge, tools, and technologies traditionally associated with these occupations. maybe you want to, beef up your resume, or perhaps you want to sort of do a one over on your job posting before you post it to make sure you're sort of looking for and seeking these, key essential skills. We're also starting to share, local education programs that relate to these occupations. So I know that people come from all walks of life when they get into an occupation. They may come directly from a traditional, school pathway, or they may have sort of, crosswalked over into it from sort of a really great opportunity. But these are school programs at the post-secondary level in our local community that we think relate to this occupation and may help people prepare themselves for getting into like a job in this field. And so it's great for young people who are considering sort of what education pathways they may want to take. You can also sort of get really detailed, like sort of listings of job postings just specific for these occupation codes in here too. So if you're trained to be one thing, a carpenter, electrician, an admin assistant, whatever the case may be, you could just, if you wanted to, just bookmark this page, come back to it regularly, and sort of always get real-time information on sort of the local jobs, local labor market information, and local companies that are hiring at any given time. We also will show you sort of what companies have hired this position in historical sense. So what are all the companies that have been recruiting these sort of positions in the past, and at what frequency, just to give you a sense of, maybe the employer that you're thinking of is on this list and one day you want to work there. You'll know that that this company does traditionally recruit somebody in this occupation. We're just starting to get more and more training opportunities posted on our board. So what we do is we can organize training. Of course, we have a training board and you can see everything, but we also organize training by occupation. And so you can see sort of occupation specific training that might be relevant to you depending on sort of the occupation or field of study you're in. And so we're just really trying to make this information more convenient for you to access, to get to report on, to use in your day-to-day, to help with your clients, whatever the case may be. We're just trying to make it easier for you to go to. So this is a Con Ed course. And then of course, down at the bottom here, we've got Statistics Canada data on sort of the size of the employment opportunity by occupation code. So the number of 15 to 24-year-olds that are in this legal administrative assistant profession in Windsor, Essex is estimated to be at 30, the time of the last census, and it sort of goes on. So great information about sort of the age of people in this occupation, the type of industry or sector that they work in. We have the visualization up here, but we also have the table down here if you want to see the numbers versus the percentage. If it's employed versus self-employed, or sorry, part-time versus full-time employment. So the extent to which occupations are traditionally employing people full-time or not, and by gender, et cetera, by education level and labor force status. So there's lots of great information that you can be checking out. And again, this type of information is increasingly available on more and more of our partner websites across Ontario. So please check it out. You'll know what tools they have on their website. When you open up the All Tools menu, you can sort of quickly navigate between these different tools and options. But I'm gonna come back to another sort of great sort of nugget of information, and I'll jump from the job board. But you can actually take a company like Good Life and click on it, and you can get all the information we know about it publicly, of course, in one spot. So where it's located, what industry we've classified it as well as what active job postings are at this company. We can see what expired job postings have been at this company. And of course, we can also see job posting volume or activity levels over time with this company. So we're getting a better sense of when hiring demand is needed by industry, by occupation. And we're looking at patterns and sort of opportunities in sort of new and exciting ways. So, you can do this for any company in the system, et cetera. So Um, I'm going to also jump over to a sector tool. So I've talked a lot about occupations, but if you want to know about sort of sector sizes and sort of uh, what's the opportunity by sector, we probably have a lot of active officials on here, and they're always wanting to know sort of employment opportunities by sector. You can see here on our sector library tool, for workforce boards who have been able to code companies by industry. You can see here in real time what the job demand is, by industry this second, this hour. And again, we're pulling from 250 job boards across Ontario. Of course, all the major notable ones: Canada Job Bank, Indeed, Workopolis, Charity Village, etc. But we're also pulling in local job boards. Our partners over at Employment Ontario, if they have an online job board, we're keen to include them. Also, industry and major employers in the community who may not traditionally post on a job board as well. There's specialty job boards for doctors and educators, and even agriculture workers that we're also pulling in from. So we're doing the best we can at sort of consolidating this, deduplicating it, organizing it, classifying it, and sharing it. And I guess if we could ask for a little bit of help, is just help us let people know about these tools, that they exist, that they're available at no charge in your communities. And that would go a long way. And I'm going to put a little plug in here for the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, who I know is a partner in a lot of the work we do in Southwestern Ontario. And you may have a Wardens Caucus in your area outside of this region, but we've worked with them to put on a job search and a job demand report for their region. And what's nice about this is it's interactive, so you can actually dynamically pull up data for all jobs or all regions, or you could narrow in on exactly what you're looking for. Like if you wanted to know about sort of the recruiting for welders, you could change this from all occupations to just welders, and you'll get a sense all across the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus region what the demand for welders is this year in this particular month relative to, say, last year at the same time. So you can really see sort of dynamically. You could do the same with industries. You could be targeting certain skills, but you can also flip to, who are the employers that are employing welders in this region? What are the occupations that have been associated with welding here? You can see there's some variations here, but for the most part, they're in this one occupation code. And then there's sectors as well. So what sectors are welders being recruited in? So really great dynamic information. You can customize this time period. You could do it over a larger time horizon, and you could see sort of what's happening here. The thing is, over the last couple of years, we've been sharing this platform with more and more organizations. So, you can go back, a year and a half, but perhaps the 2-year comparison is not as accurate because some regions were just coming online. So it's important to understand the context too of these numbers, and always seek out sort of local advice around them. But they are available 24/7. I'm wrapping up, so you can browse jobs in your pajamas at home if you really want to. And please know that there is these tools in the ecosystem here to help and share and get more people employed in our community. So without further ado, I think I'll turn it back over to our host.
Great job, Justin.